the big signals. I believe with all my heart. I've thought about it. I've prayed about it. I've studied about it. I believe with all my heart that we've entered it. We're in it now. These 4 blood moon period. You know more about it than I do. But I'm convinced in my heart this is God's great warning that it's time. I believe the tribulation probably starts at least by the end of the 4th blood moon.
I think there's a very good chance that could happen. And if you remember in the New Testament, Paul said, awake, you sleeper, arise from the dead. And I think what these are, and what we really want to utilize them for more than anything, is to wake the body of Messiah up. It's one thing for the unbelievers to be asleep.
Yeah.
But it's another thing when the church is asleep.
That's right.
And so for me, this is a wake-up call to the body of Messiah worldwide that we need to wake up, because God's calendar is what he uses his own calendar, not ours.
Yeah, he sure does.
He really does. There's no way this is an accident. There's no way that man could manipulate this. It has to be on specific dates on God's calendar. You can't move it around.
Right.
You can't play evangelist and slip it to another week or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there's been a lot of slippery religious things going on.
Yeah, that's so important, because a lot of prophets, or so-called prophets, they'll kind of prophesy things that are going to happen, and then they try to have these fudge factors and all this kind of stuff. But see, in Revelation, even the Lord said that Jesus was slain, the Lamb of God slain from the foundation of the world. That means it was all planned out from the beginning. It's not like Jesus died and the Father goes, let's go to plan B. Okay.
Yeah.
He knew what was going to happen. He even planned the songs to be sung at his son's funeral. Everything. God is a master timekeeper.
Yes.
Okay. And so we need to be on his clock. Just like, you watch these TV shows and there's some big event coming. They all say, synchronize your watches.
Right.
Because they want to make sure everyone's watch is synchronized. Mm-hmm. And I really believe what these 4 blood moons is God telling the body, you better synchronize your watches.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
To me, the blood moons has just, I wish the church could grasp it and would study the blood moons.
Right.
Rehearse the blood moon just for a minute for starting this week's shows.
Well, sure. Concerning the 4 blood moons, and one thing I want to point out is God always warns before he brings judgment.
Yes.
He always warns. And I think these are God's big warning lights in the sky that judgment is coming, that Israel should not divide the land, that the nations of the world should not divide the land of Israel. And for those that don't know what a blood moon is, it's basically a total lunar eclipse. You have the sun, and then the earth, and then the moon. When it gets directly behind the earth in the complete shadow, it turns blood red. The different color light rays that go around the earth, the longer red rays continue to go, and so they hit the moon, and that's what causes it to turn blood red. But to have these 4 on God's calendar, that's what's so important, because God's a God of order. And so when we see these things falling on his calendar, that makes a huge difference. And this is why I bring this out, because I believe what happened was due to anti-Semitism. How many of you ever heard of replacement theology?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what happened. Back in the 4th century, the church decided they wanted to get off God's calendar, so they created their own calendar. As a matter of fact, this is going to come as a shock to most people. But how many of you believe that God's a God of order?
Yes.
Okay. A Pentecost could not happen until the Lord rose from the dead. He's not going to rise from the dead until he's buried. He's not going to be buried until he dies. So he has to die first, then he's got to be buried, then he's going to raise from the dead, and then you're going to have the Feast of Shavuot. I mean, that was the order that was laid out. Well, because we've gotten on the wrong calendar, I think 2017, the resurrection or Easter is a month before Passover. How do you celebrate the resurrection a month before he dies?
Oh.
This is my point.
Yeah.
And so here, I'm all for celebrating Easter, the resurrection, but let's do it after he dies, not before. And so it's just a matter of this is what's happened. We've gotten on the wrong calendar. So I believe this is going to be a big dividing line within the body of Messiah the next few years, it goes back to my teaching on Ruth, which I think I had mentioned before.
Oh, yes. I love Ruth. I love the teaching on Ruth. Yes.
This is not going to happen again in our lifetime. I mean, not for hundreds of years, you know.
Wow.
And so this is just so incredible to be a part of this. And just like a baseball player, you know, he has 3 strikes until he's out. I see these blood moons as different strikes. Okay, and so we're not out until the 3rd one, you know, so to speak. But I really think that God is going to be judging America, the world, you know.
Beyond anything we've ever seen.
Yes.
All right. Headline. It says, Middle East stunner follows blood moon. And they literally quote you in the news report. And I've quoted you too. Could you tell them one of the first things that happened after the first blood moon?
Well, sure. One of the interesting things is our government, the State Department, our president was pushing for about 9 months, since July of the previous year, that they're going to resolve this Middle East peace process by the end of April. Okay, it was going to be done. And what happens, it completely falls apart. Right after the blood moon, the next 2 weeks, everything falls apart. John Kerry goes home. It just isn't going to happen. And I think that God does not want this dividing of the land of Israel. That's why he's so opposed to it. And I'll drop you a little hint concerning Solomon, what I'll be mentioning later. I mean, the land of Israel was God's gift to Israel. It's his land that he's allowed them to live in, right?
Yes.
You know, right now they're trying to have land for peace. That's how they're trying to solve peace, right? Well, I don't know how arrogant Solomon was, but he gave away 20 cities of the Galilee. He tried to give away the land of Israel. Who does he think he is that he can give away land for peace? But that was one of the things that he tried to accomplish. That's what he did. Who is he to give away God's promised land? Who does he think he is?
Right.
It's not his land. That's like
Right.
you renting a house and you go and try to sell it to somebody. It's not even your house.
It's not yours. It's God.